Alright, YouTube land, this is Avengers Spotlight 12 from the Marvel Comics Company. This is an anthology book starring Avengers, and as established prior, I have little to no patience for Marvel's terrible attempts at doing anthology books. Avengers Spotlight was pretty dismal, but sometimes it managed to not waste your time too much. And this is one of those issues that is better than most of what this series offered. First, we have a story with Hawkeye. Nearly every issue had a solo Hawkeye story, and they were the most obnoxious time wasters around. Hawkeye was already starring in Avengers West Coast as a main character, so you had this book that was basically telling inconsequential Hawkeye stories that didn't matter because his first home was in West Coast Avengers. And this is one of those stories, but at the very least it is a done-in-one story and not 5 parts long. He is going to fight Abomination Man from Hulk, and this picks up from that West Coast Avengers issue I reviewed, where Wonder Man beat Abomination Man. And now Abomination Man, he wants to exact revenge on Wonder Man and his terrible mullet. So he sets out to go into the Avengers' beach house, where none of the Avengers are there except for Hawkeye. Hawkeye is down in the dumps because he has broken up with his wife due to very bad writing. And Abomination Man, he is still in the setup from that West Coast Avengers issue. He isn't Tim Roth at the minute. His body is being controlled by another baddie's mind, Tyrannomon. This was actually resolved in SeaWorld Attacks, the unpopular Marvel crossover that has become synonymous with my YouTube channel. This whole Abomination Tyrannomon thing, it was resolved in the Amazing Spider-Man issue. One thing going for this story is the art by Ron Lee. Really good artwork, but what hurts is that we have Hawkeye going up against and besting an enemy that is out of his power class. This has been done before. Hawkeye beating someone way above him in terms of power. But those other times it was done much better, and it made Hawkeye's victories seem earned through determination and skill and bravery. There just isn't enough space here to justify it or make Abomination Man not seem like he is jobbing to Hawkeye. This is a bad guy who is meant to give Hulk a hard time. I didn't think it is unbelievable to have Hawkeye beat him, but it is a tremendously bad decision to have Hawkeye beat him in an issue of Avengers Spotlight. But the inclusion of a notable bad guy, and it being one of the select few Hawkeye stories in this series that are standalone, it makes it one of the better ones. It's not as annoying in the way a lot of the other ones are. Next, though, we have our second feature, and I would nominate this as the most important and the best thing in the entire Avengers Spotlight series. It's also the only story starring a character who was, at the time of release, not an Avenger. This is a story starring Yellow Wasp, a bad guy wearing the costume and identity of a former Avenger. And this picks up after the very popular and acclaimed Avengers storyline where Baron Zero and the Masters of Evil attack the Avengers' house. Here we have Fister breaking Yellow Wasp out of prison after the conclusion to that story. They were both members of the Masters of Evil. And we pick up on a single line of dialogue in that story by expanding on Fister's attraction to Yellow Wasp. She rejects him, she is not interested in him, and flies off by herself. I think this story is great because it stars a mostly unexplored character, and it fleshes her out a bit, and it even develops her character in a significant way, which was picked up on in the main Avengers book, which is another rarity for this shoddy D-list Avengers book nobody paid any attention to. This sets up Yellow Wasp and eventually joining the Avengers herself. I have suspicions that this was maybe done, or at least originally pitched, as a solo Dark Knight story, because he is in it a lot, and we sort of resolve the ongoing romance with him and his teammate, the original Wasps, which otherwise doesn't really have a resolution in the main Avengers series. Basically, he is friend-zoned, which was shown in the main book, but it becomes very evident here that there is no romantic future between him and her. Maybe not the most flattering depiction of a female character ever, but Yellow Wasp, her entire motivation for switching sides, it seems to be because she thinks that Dark Knight is a unky hunk of man meat, and she is maybe attracted to him purely to spite her nemesis, Wasps. But then she gets attacked by Fister, who is in angry incel mode. He demands that Yellow Wasp love him for him breaking her out of prison at the start. And she displays some genuine heroic tendency here by saving a little girl from Fister's random burst fire attacks. And so eventually Fister, he gets his mitts on her, and Dark Knight is there to save her from him. And then at the end, she kisses Dark Knight as thanks. And this coupling, or rather this infatuation, it isn't brought up again. But everything else done with Yellow Wasp, it does pave the way for future appearances. And so, hands down, this is the most positive I feel towards any story in Avengers Spotlight. The first story isn't terrible. It has got a good setup and a good artist. It's just a bit lacking when it comes to the writing and the overall plot mechanics. Whereas the second one is, it is everything I think this book should have been. It is fleshing out a minor Avengers character. It is building on and resolving stuff from the main Avengers books. And it is moving forward. It is moving a character forward. This is a significant story in Yellow Wasp history. She has been mostly dead since the 90s, but if you were to talk about her or a character, this is maybe the most essential story with her. It shouldn't be a surprise, but mostly on the basis of that second story, this is getting a 7 thumbs up.